Picture the most expensive locker room on planet Earth. I mean, just really try to visualize it. You are looking at a space containing over $1 billion. Literally, $1 billion worth of elite attacking talent.
Oh, easily. Probably more when you factor in image rights, honestly.
Right. We are talking about individual players who operate, not just as athletes, but as multinational corporations. They've got their own PR teams, their own commercial directors, and this is key, their own distinct gravitational pull.
They're absolute massive global brands in their own right.
Exactly. And right now, in May of 2026, those billion-dollar assets are physically fighting each other at the training ground.
It's just wild to even say out loud.
It is. And to make it even crazier, someone inside that building is leaking the play-by-play details of the brawl to a 63-year-old manager currently living in Turkey.
Yep. The leaks are coming from inside the house.
So welcome to the deep dive. We have an absolutely massive mission ahead of us today, and we are so thrilled you are joining us.
We really are. There's a lot to get through today.
Oh, so much. If you follow global sports at all, you have undoubtedly seen the explosive news dominating literally every single headline this week.
You couldn't avoid it if you tried.
Right. We are sitting here in the studio looking at a towering stack of sources. I mean, we have Tier 1 journalist reports from BBC Sports, Sky Sports, CNN Portugal, all the way down to the raw, unfiltered fury of the fan base on Reddit.
The Reddit threads are just a gold mine right now. Pure chaos.
Total chaos. But they are all confirming a rumor that is sending absolute shockwaves through the footballing world. Jose Mourinho is reportedly in final negotiations to return as the head coach of Real Madrid.
It is a development that almost defies standard sporting logic, Like, to truly grasp the magnitude of this, we need to abandon the idea that this is a normal coaching appointment.
Right, because usually it's pretty straightforward, right?
Exactly. Usually when a club makes a managerial change, you identify a structural weakness on the pitch, you find a manager whose tactical blueprint patches that specific hole, and you move forward.
But this is definitely not that.
Oh, not at all. The fans recognize this as a seismic cultural detonation. We are looking at a managerial landscape at Real Madrid that has become completely unhinged.
Yeah, so to orient you, our listener, we really need to establish the terrifying reality of Real Madrid's current context. Right now, the club is being managed by Álvaro Arbeloa.
A former player.
Right, a former player who was essentially handed the reins in a desperate bid to just, calm the waters. But to say the club is in turmoil would be an insult to the word turmoil.
It's an understatement of the century.
Truly. We are looking at a dressing room completely out of control, a tactical identity that has just evaporated into thin air, and a fan base that is shifting wildly between blind rage and, morbid curiosity.
Mostly morbid curiosity at this point, honestly.
Yeah. So our objective today is to unpack this massive stack of sources to understand the mechanics of why this reunion with Mourinho is happening now. Whether it can actually function in the modern game.
Which is a huge question mark.
A massive one. And also what it reveals about the shifting balance of power in elite football.
So we need to dissect every layer of this. We will be examining the weaponized nostalgia, the severe tactical friction, the immense egos involved, and the deeply entrenched historical grudges that have suddenly bubbled back to the surface.
The grudges are maybe my favorite part.
Oh, they are fascinating. But we cannot analyze how Mourinho plans to fix this club until we establish the underlying rot that made them desperate enough to turn back the clock in the first place.
Absolutely. So I want to start with a specific sentiment I saw repeated over and over in the fan forums. The fans themselves are describing this potential appointment as dumping gasoline on a house fire.
It's such a vivid image, isn't it?
It really is. And the truly crazy part is that the supporters are the ones standing on the lawn, holding the jerry cans, begging for the match to be lit.
They want the chaos.
They do. But let me challenge the core premise of this rescue mission, because there is a massive dividing line in our sources regarding the washed debate.
Yes. The big question. Is he washed?
Right. We are talking about Jose Mourinho, the self-proclaimed special one. He built his reputation on total dominance in the 2000s and early 2010s. I mean, he was the undisputed master of European football.
He was inevitable for a decade.
But his recent resume is a far cry from Champions League finals.
Yeah, the sources highlight this stark contrast relentlessly. The anti-Mourinho faction of the fan base is pointing out that his most notable recent achievement is winning the inaugural Europa Conference League with AS Roma.
Right. Which, let's be honest, we need to put into context for a second.
Exactly. For context, The UEFA Champions League is the absolute pinnacle of the sport. Below that is the Europa League, and then the Conference League is essentially the third tier of European competition.
It's the bronze medal tournament.
Basically, yeah. I mean, it is a trophy, yes, but for a club like Real Madrid, an institution whose entire identity, business model, and global brand is predicated on winning the biggest prizes on the planet, celebrating a Conference League winner, feels incredibly regressive.
It feels like a massive step down.
It does. And furthermore, his current stint is managing Fenerbahce in the Turkish league. So you have a vocal segment of fans explicitly calling him, quote, a washed Mourinho.
And expressing some deep skepticism there, I imagine.
Oh, yeah. They're expressing deep skepticism that a manager coming from the Turkish league can just walk in and salvage the most demanding club on earth.
I have to admit, I really struggle to see how the mathematics of respect work in this scenario.
What do you mean by that?
Well, let's look at the mechanics of a modern locker room. We are talking about a room populated by Kylian Mbappe, Vinicius Junior, and Jude Bellingham.
The absolute elite of the elite.
Exactly. These are players who have entire economies built around their image rights. If a manager hasn't hoisted a top-tier Champions League or Premier League title in the better part of a decade, how does he genuinely command the respect of that room?
It's a huge hurdle.
I mean, are players of that magnitude really going to suppress their own attacking instincts and sacrifice their individual statistics for a guy whose last major parade was for a Tier 3 European trophy?
Well, the anxiety you are describing is the exact engine driving half the fan base crazy right now. But the sources provide a highly compelling historical parallel that the pro-Mourinho fans are clinging to, like a life raft.
Okay, what's the parallel?
We have to look at the mechanics of Carlo Ancelotti's return to Real Madrid a few years ago.
Wait, Ancelotti, I need you to unpack that parallel for me.
Hear me out.
Because Ancelotti is known as the ultimate player-friendly peacemaker. He is the guy who famously manages egos with a raised eyebrow and a calm demeanor.
The famous Ancelotti eyebrow. Yeah.
Right. But Mourinho is a warlord who deliberately creates conflict to test loyalty. How do those two connect in the fans' minds when we are talking about being washed?
So it is not a parallel of personality. It is a parallel of career trajectory and club culture. Think about it. Before Ancelotti returned to Real Madrid for his incredibly successful second stint where he won multiple Champions League titles, where was he managing?
He was at Everton.
Exactly. He was at Everton in the English Premier League. At that specific moment in time, the European football intelligentsia considered Ancelotti to be completely washed.
Wow, yeah, I almost forgot about that Everton era.
Everyone thought he was done. The consensus was that modern tactical innovations had passed him by, and he was permanently relegated to managing mid-table mediocrity.
But then Florentino Perez made the call.
Yep, Perez brought him back, and he immediately conquered Europe again. So the mechanics of why that worked explain why fans think Mourinho could work now.
So what's the secret sauce then?
As one user in the sources brilliantly articulated, Real Madrid as an institution does not function like a normal football club. They do not necessarily thrive on bleeding-edge tactical systems. They thrive on, quote, big characters and a not small amount of vibes.
Vibes, the famous Friendship FC concept.
Exactly, Friendship FC.
Let's break down how that actually functions on a pitch, though. Are you saying that at Real Madrid, the sheer gravitational weight of the manager's aura is more important than, like, where the fullbacks are positioned?
To a large extent, yes. I mean, compare it to a club like Manchester City under Pep Guardiola. There, the system is the star. Every player is a cog in a meticulously engineered machine.
Right. If a player steps 2 yards out of position, Pep is losing his mind on the touchline.
Exactly. The machine breaks. But Real Madrid operates on the complete opposite end of the spectrum. They rely on placing the most talented individuals on the pitch and allowing them the freedom to solve problems in real time.
So it's less about a rigid system and more about managing the psychology of the stars.
Precisely. To manage that environment, you do not need a tactical micromanager. You need a colossal personality. You need a figurehead who is larger than life, someone who is not intimidated by the sheer, crushing weight of the Real Madrid crest or the massive egos of the players.
And Mourinho definitely has that ego.
Oh, absolutely. The argument from the pro-Mourinho camp is that regardless of his recent trophy haul in Turkey, Mourinho still possesses that undeniable aura. He has the gravitas to walk into that room and make the air stand still.
Okay, I understand the theory of gravitas, but the vibes right now under Alvaro Arbeloa are demonstrably toxic, like beyond toxic.
Yeah, the vibes are horrendous.
We aren't just talking about a team dropping points. The sources detail a locker room that is actively imploding. Let's dig into the unprecedented crisis of discipline currently paralyzing the club.
We really need to. The sources confirm a massive, highly publicized altercation at the Valdebebas training ground between Federico Valverde and Aurelien Tchouameni.
Which is crazy because these are two of the most vital midfielders in the squad.
They are the engine of the team. And the incident was severe enough that the club was actually forced to put out a comunicado official, an official public statement.
Oh, wow. They actually acknowledged it publicly.
Yeah. Announcing internal disciplinary proceedings against their own players.
Which, if you follow Real Madrid at all, you know is incredibly rare. They are notoriously protective of their brand, like they usually keep internal friction locked in a vault.
Airtight. Nothing gets out.
But here is the detail in the sources that absolutely floored me. There was a leak.
The leak is the craziest part of this whole story.
It really is. Someone inside the Real Madrid structure directly called Jose Mourinho, who, again, is currently employed in Turkey, and gave him a detailed play-by-play breakdown of the Valverde-Tchouameni fight.
Unbelievable.
And the leaker specifically told Mourinho that the fight was entirely Valverde's fault.
That leak is the most revealing piece of information in this entire saga. I mean, from an operational standpoint, it tells us two crucial things about the architecture of this crisis.
Okay, what's the first thing?
First, it proves that Mourinho is already heavily plugged into the internal politics of the club. He has loyalists, whether they are executives, staff, or players, actively feeding him intelligence before a contract is even drafted.
So he's already gathering ammunition.
Exactly. He's building his dossiers. Second, and more importantly, it highlights the absolute vacuum of authority currently plaguing the team.
Because nobody respects the current manager.
Right. When players or staff feel compelled to bypass the current manager and leak internal training ground disputes to a prospective future manager, it means the current leadership structure is completely disintegrated.
The fans are absolutely brutal in their assessment of this structure, by the way. I mean, they are referring to the current squad as a daycare of prima donnas.
A daycare. That's so harsh, but you can see why they say it.
For sure. There is an overwhelming sentiment in the forums that the prestigious, historic institution of Real Madrid is currently being, quote, bullied by young kids. These players are dictating how the club is run, who plays, and what the standards are.
Which is precisely why the Arbeloa experiment failed so spectacularly. You see, Arbeloa was appointed because he was a former player, someone who supposedly understood the weight of the shirt.
Yeah, he's supposed to be a steady hand.
The board likely viewed him as a relatable, friendly figure who could soothe the massive egos in the room without challenging them too aggressively. But the fans see him as entirely out of his depth.
They just don't respect him.
Not at all. One fan noted the absurdity of the modern game, expressing surprise that coaches with hardly any experience are handed the keys to the most demanding sporting institutions on the planet. Arbeloa had no structural authority to fall back on when the players decided to just, stop listening.
It makes me think of a classroom dynamic. Like, imagine a high school classroom filled with the most intellectually gifted, but notoriously rebellious and arrogant students in the entire district.
Oh, that's a perfect way to picture it.
Right. So the regular teacher leaves abruptly, and the administration brings in a substitute teacher, Arbeloa. He comes in with a smile. He wants to be their friend. He tells them they can have a relaxed study hall.
And we all know how that goes.
Within 10 minutes, the structural integrity of the room collapses. Paper airplanes are flying, kids are actively brawling in the back row, and the substitute is just sitting at the desk, completely ignored, incapable of raising his voice.
So what does the school do?
Well, when that happens, you don't bring in another gentle substitute. You pick up the phone and call the strictest, most terrifying disciplinarian principal in the district to kick the door off its hinges and restore basic order.
And in the collective consciousness of the Real Madrid fan base, Jose Mourinho is that principal.
100%.
They are not calling him to teach a nuanced curriculum. They are calling him to reestablish the boundaries of acceptable behavior, which leads us perfectly into the core mechanical demand of this potential appointment: total authority.
Right, because if he doesn't have the backing of the board, the whole principal routine falls apart.
Exactly. If Mourinho is going to play the role of the authoritarian principal, his success depends entirely on whether the school board actually gives him the power to expel unruly students.
Let's explore that, because fans are overwhelmingly in agreement that Mourinho isn't being brought in to build a 10-year, sustainable, holistic footballing dynasty. They're using a very specific phrase in the sources. He is being brought in as a fireman, not a home builder.
The distinction between a fireman and a home builder is vital to understanding modern managerial profiles.
Break that down for us.
So a home builder is someone like Jurgen Klopp or Mikel Arteta. When you hire a home builder, you accept that it will take 3 to 4 years to implement a complex philosophy.
You give them time to buy the right players, set the culture.
Right, they need time to develop youth academy products, overhaul the scouting department to fit a highly specific tactical profile, and slowly curate a sustainable culture of psychological safety and collective belief.
But a fireman is a totally different beast.
A fireman is someone you call when the structural supports are actively burning and the roof is caving in. You do not care if the fireman breaks the antique windows with an axe. You do not care if they ruin the hardwood floors with thousands of gallons of water.
You just need the fire out.
You just need them to extinguish the flames so the foundation survives.
And part of putting out that fire, according to the widespread fan theories in these sources, involves a massive, highly symbolic human sacrifice.
Oh, the fans are convinced this is coming.
Oh, yeah. The fans are almost universally predicting that the moment Mourinho steps into that building, he will demand the immediate sale of an essential, globally recognized player, purely as a mechanism to prove who holds the ultimate power.
This is not just idle speculation either. This is a well-documented mechanism of Mourinho's operational playbook. We have seen him execute this maneuver at multiple clubs throughout his career.
He does it almost everywhere he goes.
He walks into a new environment, scans the room for the biggest ego, the player who firmly believes their status makes them untouchable, and he publicly marginalizes them.
Just absolutely cuts them down.
He strips them of their power to establish absolute dictatorial dominance over the collective. He demands that the team witness the execution of a star so that the rest of the squad falls into line out of fear and respect.
The names being tossed around in the fan forums as potential sacrifices are staggering to even contemplate. Like, fans are seriously suggesting he might demand the sale of Vinicius Junior or even Kylian Mbappe.
Selling Mbappe or Vini sounds like absolute madness.
It does. To give you some context, if you aren't watching every week, Vinicius is currently operating at a level where he is considered one of the absolute best players on earth.
He's the face of the franchise right now.
But there's a comment in the sources that perfectly encapsulates the brutal reality of this impending clash. One fan wrote, "Vinny will either be Ballon d'Or or GTFO. Get them on." Well,
Yeah, get out. Let's break down the mechanics of why that specific clash is so inevitable. The Ballon d'Or is the most prestigious individual award in world football.
The highest honor you can win as a single player.
Exactly. To win it, a player generally needs incredible individual statistics, spectacular highlight reel moments, and the freedom to express their ultimate attacking potential.
And Mourinho's style is basically the exact opposite of that.
Mourinho's philosophy is the antithesis of individual expression. He demands a collective, grueling sacrifice for the team's defensive structure. He requires his wingers to sprint back and defend their own penalty area relentlessly.
Which these guys just do not do.
Players like Vinicius and Mbappe are global icons, accustomed to a certain level of tactical freedom. They are often absolved from heavy defensive duties, so they have the energy to explode on the counterattack.
Right, you want Mbappe fresh for a breakaway, not gassed from playing left back.
Exactly. When Mourinho demands that a Ballon d'Or candidate spend 70 minutes tracking the opposition's fullback, the friction is instantaneous. As one user explicitly stated, Mbappe is about to meet a real dictator.
But the deeper structural question the fans are asking, however, is not whether Mourinho will try to sell a superstar, but whether the club hierarchy will actually let him.
Which brings us to the immovable object at the very top of the Real Madrid power structure. President Florentino Perez.
The big boss.
The big boss. The sources we are looking at are filled with intense, blistering criticism of Perez, who is now pushing 80 years old. The fans are directly accusing him of creating this crisis by systematically undermining previous managers and constantly siding with his favorite divas.
To understand the fans' frustration with Perez, we really have to look at the mechanical architecture of the Galacticos model he pioneered.
Oh, for sure. The Galacticos model is everything to him.
Right. Florentino Perez fundamentally views Real Madrid as a global entertainment product and a marketing juggernaut. Under his philosophy, you acquire the most famous, most commercially viable players on the planet, the Galacticos.
Because they sell the shirts.
Because they generate massive global engagement, drive astronomical shirt sales, and secure lucrative international broadcasting rights. The tactical cohesion of these players is often a secondary concern.
It's all about the brand.
Consequently, when there is a conflict between a manager who is trying to instill tactical discipline and a superstar Galactico who is complaining about being benched or asked to defend, Perez historically intervenes on behalf of the player.
Every single time.
He does this to protect the club's financial asset. So the fans argue that by continually protecting the stars, Perez strips the manager of any real authority. The players know they can simply bypass the coach and appeal directly to the president.
The coach is essentially powerless in that dynamic.
Right. So let me stop you there, because the math on this potential appointment just does not add up for me.
How so?
If Florentino Perez has spent the last 2 decades defining the modern era of prioritizing commercial superstars over tactical systems, how can anyone genuinely believe he is going to change now?
That is the million-dollar question.
Like, can an 80-year-old billionaire who is used to dictating every aspect of the club genuinely swallow his pride, change his entire leadership style, and cede total control of the sporting project to a warlord like Mourinho?
The consensus in the sources is highly skeptical, and you hit on the exact reason why. As one user astutely pointed out, quote, "People pushing 80 rarely develop any extra self-awareness or self-criticism."
Yeah, people don't usually change their spots at 80.
The fans understand the structural paradox. They believe that unless Perez takes a complete back seat, unless he physically removes himself from the sporting decisions and allows Mourinho to operate with absolute impunity, any short-term fix will violently collapse.
And the fans aren't just demanding that Mourinho gets to control the players. They are demanding a total scorched earth overhaul of the entire club infrastructure.
They want everyone gone.
They are citing the medical team as a prime example. The fans are furious about the sheer volume of players who have been mysteriously injured, rushed back too soon, or are chronically mismanaged.
The injury record has been brutal lately.
There was a fascinating reference in the sources to former Chelsea doctor Eva Carneiro. One fan predicted that the Real Madrid medical staff, or even players suspected of faking injuries, are about to get Carneiro'd.
Oh man, that is an incredibly layered historical
Can
reference.
you explain that one for us?
Yeah, so during Mourinho's second stint at Chelsea, he had a highly publicized, incredibly ugly touchline dispute with the team doctor, Eva Carneiro. He accused the medical staff of being naive and failing to understand the flow of the game when they rushed onto the pitch to treat a player.
Which left Chelsea down a man temporarily, right?
Right, it temporarily reduced Chelsea to 9 men. He subsequently demoted her and basically pushed her out of the club. The fans, using the term Carneiro'd, are acknowledging Mourinho's demand for total subservience.
He wants absolute loyalty from everyone.
Everyone. He does not just want to control the tactics. He wants the medical staff, the sporting directors, the nutritionists, and the media department to operate exactly according to his militant standards. He wants to weaponize every single department within the organization.
The fans know that if Mourinho is just airdropped into the existing dysfunctional structure, with Perez still micromanaging from the boardroom and sending text messages to his favorite players, it will result in what one fan brilliantly termed mutually assured destruction.
Mutually assured destruction. Perfect.
It won't be a football project. It will be an ego clash of biblical proportions that will physically tear the institution apart.
Okay, but let us play devil's advocate for a moment. Let's assume the impossible happens.
Okay, let's assume.
Let's assume Perez actually hands Mourinho the keys to the kingdom and promises not to intervene. We still have to address the massive, glaring elephant in the room.
Which is?
Beyond the boardroom politics and the locker room palette struggles, there is the undeniable reality of what happens when the referee blows the whistle and the match actually begins. The tactical mismatch here is generating immense anxiety among the supporters.
Oh, absolutely. We have to talk about parking the bus.
The classic Mourinho strategy.
Mourinho is globally renowned and in some circles totally reviled for a deeply pragmatic, structurally rigid defense-first tactical philosophy. Let's define what that actually means mechanically on the pitch.
Yeah, how does the bus actually get parked?
He basically doesn't want the ball. He builds teams that sit in a deep, compact defensive block. They absorb relentless pressure from the opposition, actively eliminate any risky passes in their own half, and just wait for the opponent to make a mistake so they can punish them on a rapid counterattack.
It is not pretty.
No, it is not the expansive, flowing football that modern purists demand. It is brutally effective, but it requires players to possess immense discipline and a willingness to suffer physically without touching the ball for long stretches of the game.
Now, overlay that rigid, suffering-based philosophy onto the current Real Madrid squad.
It's a tough mental image.
You are dealing with an offensive line featuring Mbappe, Vinicius, Rodrigo, and Bellingham. These are elite, generational attacking talents who thrive on possession. They want the ball at their feet so they can express themselves, isolate defenders, and dominate the rhythm of game.
It's like trying to run a decentralized, highly creative Silicon Valley tech startup using a 1950s factory floor manager who insists on timing everyone's bathroom breaks and demands they punch a physical time card.
That is a hilarious analogy, but it's spot on.
The friction isn't just about personality, it is fundamentally operational. You cannot take a player like Mbappe, whose greatest weapon is his explosive burst of speed in the final third, and ask him to track back and defend the edge of his own penalty area for 75 minutes against a mid-table La Liga team.
It neutralizes his physical gifts completely.
And it breaks his spirit.
The tactical friction is a massive concern. Fans are terrified that the modern iteration of Mourinho has become so entrenched in his defensive dogma that he is simply incapable of utilizing the generational attacking talent currently at his disposal.
So they're just bracing for horrible football.
Yes and no. However, we have to look at the powerful counter-narrative present in the sources. There is a deep well of nostalgia that the pro-Mourinho faction is tapping into, specifically referencing the 2011-2012 Real Madrid season.
I noticed that specific year kept popping up in the comments. What was the exact tactical mechanism that made that team so beloved?
The fans who defend Mourinho's tactical acumen point out that his 2011-12 Real Madrid team was arguably the most devastatingly effective counterattacking side in the history of the sport.
Wow, history of the sport.
Oh, easily. They did not just win the league, they shattered records, scoring an astonishing 121 goals in La Liga that season.
121 goals is insane.
The mechanics of that team were breathtaking. They would absorb pressure, win the ball deep in their own half, and within 3 passes in 8 seconds, they were in the opponent's penalty box.
Just lightning fast.
They utilized the visionary passing of Mesut Ozil, the relentless engine of Angel Di Maria, and the explosive lacquer finishing of Cristiano Ronaldo. They operated with a verticality that obliterated teams in transition.
So the pro-Mourinho fans want to recreate that.
Exactly. The fans supporting this appointment are holding on to the desperate hope that Mourinho can recreate that specific blueprint, utilizing the sheer pace of Mbappe and Vinicius to replicate that terrifying transition speed.
But even the fans who are bringing up 2012 seem to understand that we're living in a very different era of football now, right?
Oh, for sure. The game has moved on.
Even the most optimistic supporters in the forums acknowledge that this is not going to usher in a long, sustained era of beautiful, dominant football. There is a prevailing belief that Mourinho will bring short-term success, but the physical and psychological toll will be grueling.
Yeah, it's not going to be a fun ride for the players.
I saw one fan predict that Mourinho could genuinely win the league in his first season simply by drilling the defense, making the team incredibly difficult to break down, and, quote, nicking 1-0 scores.
It represents the ultimate Faustian bargain for a football fan.
A deal with the devil.
Exactly. They're actively offering to sacrifice the beautiful game, the flair, the possession, the joy of watching their superstars express themselves in exchange for a return to disciplined, grinding, ugly victories.
But notice the massive caveat that comes with that prediction.
What did they say?
The fan who predicted the immediate league title followed it up by stating, quote, I don't expect him to last long, though, max 2 seasons.
They know it's a sprint, not a marathon. The fans are intimately familiar with the mechanics of the inevitable Mourinho cycle. We have seen it play out with almost mathematical certainty across Europe.
Break down the cycle for us. What's year one?
Year one. He arrives, identifies an external enemy, and builds an impenetrable siege mentality. It is us against the world. The players buy into the intensity, they run through brick walls for him, and they usually win a major trophy.
Okay, so honeymoon phase, year 2.
Year 2. The success is still there, but the hyper-intense, demanding tactics begin to grate on the creative players who are tired of suffering without the ball.
They start getting annoyed.
And then, year 3. Total toxic meltdown. The dressing room fractures into warring factions. The manager publicly attacks his own players in the press. The results plummet, and he is inevitably sacked, leaving behind a scorched earth.
Man, And to truly understand why the Real Madrid fan base is so incredibly apprehensive about that inevitable year 3 meltdown, we cannot just look at the future. We have to look at the ghosts of managers past.
Oh, the history is thick here.
Because this potential appointment is not happening in a vacuum. Deeply entrenched historical grudges from Mourinho's first stint are violently resurfacing and dictating the current media narrative.
This is where the story shifts from tactical analysis into basically a Shakespearean drama. We cannot talk about Mourinho returning without addressing his relationship with the club's ultimate legends.
No, we definitely can't.
The sources highlight a viral reaction that dropped recently from Iker Casillas, who is undisputedly one of the greatest goalkeepers in Real Madrid and Spanish football history.
The Casillas interaction is fascinating. He was approached by the media and explicitly asked if he would support signing Mourinho. His response was ice cold.
Freezing cold.
He stated, quote, "I don't care that you're asking me about Mourinho." He completely dismissed the premise of the question. And then he dropped a massive rhetorical bomb by adding, "I'd sign Xabi Alonso again. He was the ideal coach for Real Madrid."
Boom. Just completely ignored Mourinho and brought up Alonso. To understand the sheer vitriol behind Casillas' dismissal, we have to look at the mechanics of what happened over a decade ago.
Take us back. What happened?
During Mourinho's first tenure, he made a decision that fundamentally broke the club in half. He decided to bench Iker Casillas.
Which is unthinkable.
Unthinkable. No, we are not just talking about dropping a struggling player. Casillas was the club captain. He was Stan Iker. He was the beloved symbol of the academy and the Spanish national team. Mourinho benched him in favor of Diego Lopez.
Mechanically, how does benching one player, even a captain, fracture an entire institution so deeply?
It fractures the institution because of what the benching symbolizes. Mourinho did not just drop Casillas for purely sporting reasons. He dropped him because he suspected Casillas was leaking dressing room information to the press, specifically to his journalist girlfriend at the time.
Ah, so it was a trust issue.
Entirely. By benching the ultimate club icon, Mourinho was declaring total war on player power and the Spanish media establishment that protected the homegrown stars.
He was drawing a line in the sand.
He divided the dressing room into two camps. The Mourinho loyalists, who believed in the manager's absolute authority, and the Casillas loyalists, who believed the manager was destroying the soul of the club.
And it was toxic.
Incredibly toxic.
Yeah.
And clearly, as one Reddit user noted in the sources, quote, "Mou benching Iker for Diego Lopez still hasn't sat right with him. The wounds never healed."
It is astonishing to see how these decade-old grudges still dictate the modern discourse around the club. At Real Madrid, the past is never actually in the past. It is a weapon used in current political battles.
Oh.
But what fascinated me even more than the Casillas grudge was his specific mention of Xabi Alonso. Because right now, in May 2026, Xabi Alonso represents the ultimate agonizing what-if for this fan base.
Xabi Alonso is the phantom limb of Real Madrid. When you read the sources, they are absolutely dripping with immense regret over his brief, doomed tenure as manager.
Let's establish the context of his arrival because it was a huge deal.
Oh, massive. Alonso came to Madrid with a massive, glittering reputation after engineering an incredible, invincible season with Bayer Leverkusen in Germany. He was heralded as the chosen one.
He was supposed to be the architect of Real Madrid 2.0. The fans were desperate for what he represented. They wanted a modern, tactical evolution.
Because they were so tired of the old ways.
Right. For years, Real Madrid had relied on recycling the old guard, bringing back Ancelotti, bringing back Zidane, and now potentially bringing back Mourinho. They relied on managers who managed moments rather than systems.
Xabi Alonso represented a departure from that entirely. He played progressive, front-foot, highly structured positional football. He was supposed to drag the club into the modern tactical era.
Let's look at the mechanics of why Xabi Alonso was so highly rated.
Sure. At Leverkusen, he implemented a fluid 3-4-2-1 system. It relied on incredibly aggressive wingbacks, two holding midfielders who dictated the tempo, and twin number 10s operating in the half spaces.
Wow, okay, that sounds very complex.
It was a masterpiece of modern positional play, requiring every player to understand precise spatial relationships and execute highly coordinated pressing triggers. It was beautiful, dominant football.
But it didn't translate to Madrid, did it?
Not even a little bit. When he tried to install that exact same mechanical system at Real Madrid, it collapsed, and he was sacked after just 5 or 6 months.
Just a disaster.
The failure of the Xabi Alonso project was deeply traumatic for the fan base because it shattered their illusions about what their club was capable of becoming. Even Jurgen Klopp weighed in on the situation, stating that if a coach who transformed Leverkusen into an invincible European powerhouse gets sacked at Madrid after 5 months, quote, something is wrong with the club.
I need to challenge the fans' logic here, though, because I see a massive contradiction.
Lay on me.
The fans in these forums are crying out for Xabi Alonso, wishing he could somehow come back and be given total control. But he was there. He was given the job, and he failed spectacularly.
They chased him out.
Doesn't the fact that a universally beloved, highly respected club legend like Xabi, who brought the exact modern fluid tactics everyone claims they want, couldn't get this locker room to buy in, doesn't that fundamentally prove that tactical modernity is completely useless at Real Madrid without Mourinho-level authoritarian discipline?
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, if the players won't run for Xabi, why would they run for anyone else unless they are terrified of the consequences?
You have hit on the exact painful conclusion that a growing faction of the fan base is reluctantly reaching right now. They are going through an ideological crisis.
A crisis of faith.
Truly. They're realizing that you can possess the most brilliant tactical mind in world football. You can draw the most beautiful passing networks on a whiteboard, but if the players refuse to execute the physical running required to make the system work.
If they're physically fighting each other in training.
Exactly. And if they feel empowered to simply ignore the manager's instructions because they know the president will protect their status, then tactics are entirely irrelevant. The system is dead on arrival.
There's a quote from a fan that perfectly summarizes this realization. Without club and player politics, Xabi would have cooked, but they didn't let him.
Yeah, that sums it up perfectly.
The environment was fundamentally too toxic for a modern tactician to survive.
Exactly. And because of this incredibly toxic environment, because of this brewing, catastrophic clash of styles, oversized egos, and unresolved history, the fan base has undergone a fascinating and bizarre psychological shift.
This is where it gets really weird.
As we comb through these Reddit threads, we see that the fans have transitioned from expecting sporting dominance to anticipating pure, unadulterated reality television.
We have officially entered the Hollywood drama era of Real Madrid. The fans are actively moving away from analyzing expected goals, defensive blocks, and passing accuracy, and they are entering the realm of a Netflix soap opera.
It's pure popcorn entertainment for them now.
The quotes we pulled from these sources are absolutely phenomenal. The fans are not just resigned to the impending chaos, they are actively reveling in it.
They're viewing their own club as a morbid spectacle. You have fans in the forums genuinely demanding that Amazon Prime or Netflix pay $1 billion to secure the behind-the-scenes documentary rights for the upcoming season.
$1 billion might actually be worth it for the footage.
Right. One fan even pitched the perfect title for the inevitable disaster: The Real World, The Real Housewives, The Real Madrid.
My personal favorite was the user who analyzed the upcoming power struggle and called the season Stalin versus Trotsky.
It is a brilliant, if terrifying, historical analogy. They are anticipating a brutal, uncompromising internal war for ideological control of the institution, where the loser is completely exiled.
And the fans are already mapping out the geographic factionalism. They are predicting an all-out turf war inside the dressing room.
Oh, the factions are being drawn up as we speak.
You have fans talking about the impending clash between the Portuguese invasion and the French regime.
Let's break down the mechanics of that proxy war.
Okay, set the scene.
You are going to have Mourinho coming in, demanding absolute loyalty, and likely bringing in his trusted Portuguese lieutenants to enforce his will. People are even joking about him bringing in Rui Costa as a sporting director to clean house.
Just a total takeover.
That authoritarian Portuguese contingent is going to go head-to-head against the incredibly powerful French faction currently dominating the dressing room: Kylian Mbappe, Aurelien Tchouameni, and Eduardo Camavinga. It is literally a proxy war being fought over the lockers inside the Santiago Bernabeu.
The language the fans are using to describe this terms like mutually assured destruction, dumpster fire, and adding gasoline to a fire. It all points to a collective surrender to the absurdity of their situation.
They've just given up on logic.
The fans have realized they cannot control the monster the club has created, so they have decided to grab popcorn and watch it rampage. But if we dig a little deeper into this overwhelming desire for chaos, we uncover a much darker, more profound psychological state taking hold of the fan base.
Which brings us to the rock bottom theory.
Yes,
Oh.
we find the emergence of the rock bottom theory. This was undeniably the most shocking revelation in the entire stack of sources for me. The idea that things have to get significantly, violently worse before they can ever hope to get better.
We are seeing a startling admission from a vocal segment of fans who are actively, genuinely rooting against their own team in the short term.
Which is so anti-fan it hurts.
It's unheard of. Real Madrid has an upcoming match against Barcelona this weekend, the El Clasico. It is the fiercest rivalry in global sports.
You literally are supposed to hate them more than anything.
And yet you have Real Madrid fans, supporters of the most historically proud, arrogant club on earth, typing things like, "We have to get trashed by Barca on Sunday. Either we reach rock bottom and hope for a complete restart, or we have some minor success and go into another cycle of the same old shit."
Let's analyze the psychology of that. They are actively praying for humiliation. Why?
Because they understand the mechanics of the boardroom.
Right. They believe that a narrow 1-0 loss just leads to minor tweaks. It leads to the board firing Arbeloa and bringing in another soft manager. But a 5-0 annihilation at the hands of their bitterest rivals in their own stadium,
That changes things.
that level of historic humiliation might be the only catalyst capable of shocking Florentino Perez into stepping down, or at the very least, shocking the board into completely dismantling the player power dynamic that is choking the club.
They recognize that they are trapped in a structural loop. They refer to it as the Ancelotti-Zidane loop.
Walk us through that loop.
It is a defined cycle. The club hires a player-friendly manager. The manager relies on the sheer vibes and individual brilliance of the Galacticos. They win a Champions League. Slowly, the tactical discipline erodes because the players are not pushed.
Complacency sets in.
The results falter. The board panics and sacks the manager. They bring in a strict manager. The players revolt. The strict manager is sacked. They hire another player-friendly manager, and the cycle repeats.
It's an endless treadmill.
The fans viewing this situation do not see Mourinho as a savior who is going to build a dynasty. They view him as a detonator. They want him to walk into the club and blow up the cycle entirely.
It is an incredible, almost tragic paradox. These fans love beautiful football, yet they want a manager who is notoriously defensive, abrasive, and confrontational to come in not to win beautifully, but to wage a literal war on their own players.
Yeah, they're sacrificing the present for the future.
They are hoping that Mourinho burns the current culture to the ground so that maybe 5 years from now, a normal, modern manager can finally walk into the club and succeed without having to fight the ghosts of player power.
So if we synthesize everything we have uncovered, analyzed, and debated in this deep dive, the core tension driving this entire saga is unmistakably clear.
What's the bottom line here?
We are witnessing the impending, catastrophic collision of an unstoppable force. Jose Mourinho's colossal ego and unwavering demand for absolute authoritarian control meeting the seemingly immovable object of Real Madrid's deeply entrenched player power and constant presidential interference.
It is a desperate, toxic marriage of convenience for a sporting institution that has completely lost its way.
They really have.
They are reaching backward into their own history, grabbing hold of a highly volatile, potentially outdated managerial philosophy simply because they have exhausted every other option. They have absolutely no idea how to control the billion-dollar monster they have engineered in their own dressing room.
It is the gasoline on the house fire.
The fans know it is going to burn. They are just praying it burns away the rot before it fundamentally destroys the foundation of the club.
And that leaves us with a profound, lingering question to ponder, especially for you listening as a fan of the modern game, regardless of who you support.
Okay, leave us with something to think about.
We are living in a distinct era where elite players are no longer just athletes. They are global brands, multinational corporations in their own right, wielding immense political, social, and financial power. Furthermore, we live in an era where incredibly complex, advanced tactical systems, the highly structured positional play of Pep Guardiola or Mikel Arteta usually dictate who wins the biggest trophies.
The game has evolved mechanically and politically.
Precisely. So if Jose Mourinho fails at Real Madrid this time, if he is somehow given the keys to the kingdom, if he fights the players, clashes with the board, attempts to implement his rigid defensive structures, and ultimately gets sacked without fixing the culture or winning the major prizes, does that definitively prove that the concept of the authoritarian dictator manager is officially dead?
Wow, that's a huge question.
Does a failure here prove, once and for all, that the age where the manager was the single most important, most powerful person at a football club is over? permanently replaced by the era of absolute player supremacy?
That is the multi-million-dollar question that the entire footballing world will be watching unfold in Madrid next season. We have reached the bottom of our source stack for today.
What a ride.
Thank you so much for joining us on this exhaustive deep dive into the absolute madness and mechanical dysfunction of the Real Madrid managerial circus. Keep questioning the narratives you see on the pitch, keep looking at the structural forces operating behind the drama, and remember, well, sometimes when you smell smoke, it's just the fans getting the gasoline ready. We'll see you next time.